I don't know whether Yorkshire Water are interested, but I've got a glass of water here I'm not using. Yes, it is. It's Claudette. There's the Everly Brothers. And a very, very good morning to you. Welcome to the programme. It's the old Steve-O taking you through until 3 with as much stuff and nonsense as can be shoehorned in. Some very fine music too. And it being a Friday, of course, your friend and my friend, the competition reaches its climax, you see. That's last week's competition. We wrap up. Do that around about 1:50. And there's also this week's competition to knock on the head too. Yes, your Bee Gees, and that is words. The brothers Gibb, as in Gibb, and Gibb. I always wonder, when it comes to dividing up the royalties, whenever these checks come in, how do they know which Gibb is which and which one gets which bit? Just thinking, I hope they haven't got Sting's accountant, otherwise it'd be terrible trouble. Yep, there's Enya and Book of Days. Apologies if you're suffering from withdrawal symptoms. If you're thinking, hang on a minute, he played the Bee Gees and he didn't mention his mate John, the world's #1 Bee Gees fan. The man who is head of department at a school in Chelmsford, but I shan't. I don't want to pin it down too far, otherwise he'll never hear the end of it. He's been rechristened, incidentally. He's been rechristened Dave the Headmaster as of yesterday, because I got a letter from Lynn Thelwall Viaduct, a lady in South Woodham Ferrers, who says, "Are you going to Dave the Headmasters for bonfire night again this year?" I don't know. I'll see which way the wind's blowing, really. Anyway, so John has now become Dave the Headmaster, but he's still the world's #1 Bee Gees fan. There's nothing we can do about it. And we're grown men now. We're, well, sort of grown men these days. Right back to, I'll go back, years when we were tiny schoolboys. And it's very embarrassing because, you're having a dinner party or something. It's all very civilised. People are sitting around passing canapes backwards and forwards, whatever a canapé is. And, suddenly he'll go into maximum sort of warble. Warble factor 8. And we try and make light of it, Did you leave? I don't know, I can't cope with complicated questions this early on, really. So early in the day. Why have you left? And that is Crystal Gayle. Well, another extraordinary 24 hours on the planet has been and gone, and surely maximum accolades go to Will Carling, I think the hero of the last 24 hours, for his splendid, quick as a flash, one-liner. I'll start again. He was addressing a whole bunch of people at Birmingham's NEC. You may have heard about this yesterday. It was rather boringly the Institute of Sales and Marketing Management, and he was addressing them on the subject of, well, I don't know, sales and marketing or whatever, and somebody's mobile phone went off, as so often they do, and quick as a flash he said, "Tell her I'm not here." Very good. It's madness. And that is our house in the middle of our street, slap bang in the middle of our street. Motorists have been advised to treat it as a roundabout until the council can come along and dynamite it out of the way. 24 minutes past midnight. It is the old Steve-O taking you through until 3 with stuff, nonsense, fine music, competitions plenty. Competition-wise, in about 20 minutes from now, you'll have a very good chance of winning Heartbeat Forever Yours. I was going to do 60 then, but let's keep it to 40. 40 love songs from the 1960s, from the likes of, well, just about everybody, you name it. Dusty Springfield, the Trogs, Jimmy Justice, Billy Fury, Ricky Nelson, Roy Orbison, Gene Pitney, Marvin Gaye, Brian Hyland, The Searchers, the Holly. I mean, they're all here. Everybody from the 60s is squeezing themselves onto Heartbeat Forever Yours, double CD set. And it can be yours just for knowing the answer to a ludicrously easy question, one of the easiest ever. In about 20 minutes from now. God, dear, what a stirring end. I mean, it was stirring throughout, I thought, but particularly towards the end there. You'll Never Walk Alone, performed there by Kiri Takanawa with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Well, I'm amazed we can get them all in here, quite honestly. I mean, obviously one or two of us have had to stand, but I think it was worth it.
This is Paul Gambaccini. Join me every weekday on Radio 3 for Morning Collection. I'll be celebrating 500 years of classical music from the great composers in the finest performances on record. As well as our healthy diet of the most popular works, we'll sample classical music at the cinema, the best sellers of today and yesterday, and some of the lesser-known, neglected morsels from the repertoire. Savor the Morning Collection with me, Paul Gambaccini, every weekday at 9 a.m. on Radio 3.
There's Lionel Richie and the Commodores. And Lionel Richie, I think, was the answer, or was it the Commodores was the answer? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. To one of my competitions at some stage. There's no point entering now, it was months ago. I suppose you could always pretend that it had fallen down behind the photocopier at the sorting office, but I think we'd see through that, quite honestly. And that was still... just wading through. I mean, stacks of letters and cards and things. It's really good news. Thank you very much indeed. I'm deeply touched. You'd have to be touched to do this, really, though, wouldn't you? Regularly. But I've got all this here, and that includes squidgy parcels. Squidgy parcels are coming this morning. Another one in a very odd shape. And I don't quite understand, but well, I suppose if I open it, that might help. Gary Owen turns up. He turns up from Wokingham in Berkshire. He takes part in the competition, and he then says, "I've been banished to the night shift here at a Wokingham plastic company, and I'm reduced to entering your competition." I know. Things can only get better after this, can they? Reduced to entering my competition. There's Les Paul and Mary Ford. Les Paul, the man who invented the electric guitar, and Mary Ford, who invented the Model T. What a marriage made in heaven in some ways, and via con Dios. Oh dear, I don't know. I spy my little eye. Let's see. Hadrian's turn up. Hadrian Jeff. Remember Hadrian, who used to claim that he lived in a place called Fawncett St Mary, a likely story, which is somewhere in the Norwich area. And he's taking part in the Sarah Bright Person competition, which will reach its climax, I suppose, and conclusion around about 1:45, 1:50, somewhere around about there, when I plunge my hand into the hat and take out the first 5. So this will be going in there, Hadrian. He says he's got all the answers here. I mean, I wasn't here last week, so I don't even know the question. I don't even know what CD you're going to have, but I'm sure it's wonderful. He says, well, that's definitely correct. You've got all that absolutely correct. I know that's the right answer. Don't know what the question was. He says, Sarah Brightman once kissed me when we were both little. She's still quite little, though, isn't she? I mean, in many ways. She might kiss you again, really. Are you still little? He's not going to start singing, is he? It's perfectly clear. He just can't be bothered. There's George Benson and his version of The Last Train to Clarksville, which is one of the great records of the Monkees normally. But there it is, being one of the great records of George Benson. It's Hadrian. I've just read the bit at the bottom of your postcard here. He says, I'll send you a proper postcard in due course, but at the moment I'm having trouble with conjunctivitis. So, talk to me about conjunctivitis. In my student days, I was a martyr to conjunctivitis. I know all about this. But I have to say that you should take Kenny Everett's advice. Kenny Everett used to say that if you have trouble with your eyes, the thing to do is to, when you go to bed at night, take them out and just pop them in a glass of water with a sprig of mint, and they come up lovely in the morning. You know, if we can't pass a bit of advice on to each other, what can we do? Another stab at the competition coming up after this from Alison Krauss. Alison Krauss has been knocking around for years and years, and finally her record company have decided it's the big push. We've decided we're going over the top, and we're right behind you all the way, Alison. And boy, they're giving her a bit of a push in the direction of the charts. It's Baby Now That I've Found You. I'd like to apologise to you if the programme smells of TCP this morning. It's not me. I personally, I mean, oh, no. I'm sorry to have to mention a brand name, but you can't get across the full... there's a very, very strong smell of it somewhere in this building, in this kind of area. I can't quite work out what's happened. I think it may be a freak TCP accident. You know, somebody's obviously fallen downstairs with a bucket of the stuff or something, and it's pervading all the common parts. And there's nothing very much we can do about it. I just hope it's not afflicting you, not it's afflicting me. Come to think of it, though, I mean, when you think about it, those common parts out there we share with the Archers, and it has been an Archers recording week this week, so it may not be TCP anyway. It could actually be sheep dip, I suppose. Radio 2, competition time. Come to think of it, I did see Eddie Grundy earlier in the week, so it probably is sheep dip. Right, let's move very swiftly on to Heartbeat Forever Yours. It can be yours, just for knowing the answer to this ridiculously easy televisual-orientated question. Heartbeat, of course, a popular television series, I'm given to understand, watched in millions, of whom you may be one, in which case you'll know the answer to this question easy peasy. It stars a young actor, an actor who, as one of the postcards I was just reading points out, a young man who's getting younger all the time. He's obviously been taking the Cliff Richard juice. If you would like to name the actor who stars as PC Nick Rowan in Heartbeat, then you're well on the way. All you've got to do is get your card to me in good time for next Thursday, and then you're in. You're in the Radio 2 policeman's helmet for next Friday morning. And who knows, you may be waltzing off with one of these. I've got 5 copies of a double CD set to give away, 40 tracks on there. There's 39 and this one. Car, you see, you live and learn, don't you? That's written by Philip Goodhand Tate. There's something I didn't know until just now. Philip Goodhand Tate and the Stormsville Shakers. And that was a Love Affair, the people of Love Affair. I think it's one bloke, actually, a bloke and an orchestra, really, technically speaking, but we won't dwell on it too much. And Bringing On Back the Good Times, that turns up on your CD, and there's stacks of other things on there by everybody you can think of from the 60s. If you'd like to waltz off with that, all you need to do is tell me the answer to who plays PC Nick Rowan in Heartbeat. And if while you're at it, if you've got any space on your card, embarrassing white bits, by all means fill them in with interesting things about, I don't know, anything you don't mind us knowing about you. Whatever you fancy having a chat about, that would be good. And the address to write to is Steve Madden, BBC Radio 2, Pebble Mill, Birmingham, B5 7QQ. And as somebody pointed out yesterday, how do we know that you're there? I mean, you could so easily be still be in London, just pretending to be. I've been dwelling on that during the last 24 hours. I could be anywhere, couldn't I? I could be in Caithness or somewhere, or Tunbridge Wells, but I'm not. I am actually at BBC Radio 2 in Pebble Mill, Birmingham, B5 7QQ. Look forward to receiving your postcard in good time for next Thursday. It's Arthur Prysock. I think Arthur Prysock is one of the best names, and it really is almost unassailably good, and someone to watch over me. I know you're thinking, Carl, he never gets around to doing any of those news stories he's been trawling past us. He hasn't got around to doing boys' football team has shown the red card, or sorry chief, I've just lost supercar, or discarded terrapins wreak havoc in ponds. But let's do canine camera to collar criminals. This is the police force's latest device to put criminals in the frame, a television camera fitted to a dog. This is Tayside Police. They've unveiled the gadget in Dundee. It's a great idea, absolutely cracking idea. Television camera attached to a dog. You can imagine, can't you? I mean, if that's a success, it's obviously going to catch on in television studios up and down the country. You can imagine directors tearing their hair out, saying, I just want a nice close-up of Sue Lawley, camera 2. And camera 2 saying, I can't. The dog wants to go the other way. Unmistakably Brian Adams. Do I have to say the words? And in just a couple of minutes, I shall play you one of the best records of all time. On 88 to 91 FM, this is Radio 2 from the BBC. The time now is just gone 1 o'clock, and here's the latest news. The Secretary-General of NATO, Willy Klaas, is widely expected to resign today after Belgian MPs decided he must stand trial on corruption charges. He'll now have to answer to the country's Supreme Court over claims that he knew about payments made by foreign weapons manufacturers when he was a government minister in the late 1980s. His position at the helm of the Western Defence Alliance is thought to be untenable. The Home Secretary, Michael Howard, appears to have seen off Labour's attack on his handling of the prison service. In the Commons, the government defeated an opposition motion which criticised Mr Howard's sacking of the head of the prison service, Derek Lewis. Men are to receive free prescriptions from the age of 60 instead of 65. The European Court of Justice ruled they should be treated the same as women. The change could cost the government £50 million. Plans for a Scottish Parliament will be debated in Edinburgh later this morning. Members of the Scottish Constitutional Convention are expected to ratify plans which outline the shape and powers a future assembly should have. Siamese twins born 5 weeks ago in Manchester have died. Chloe and Nicole Astbury were joined at the abdomen. They'd undergone an operation to separate a shared bowel, and doctors had been pleased with their progress. But they developed a rare bowel disease and died early yesterday morning within minutes of each other. The Cornerstone chain of estate agents has called in the receivers, putting 400 jobs at risk. The company has 70 branches, mostly on the south coast. It says the slump in house sales has made it impossible for the chain to survive. The supermarket chain Safeway has admitted that thousands of motorists have been putting the wrong sort of petrol in their cars due to a mix-up on a forecourt at Yeovil in Somerset. Drivers who thought they were filling up with 4-star actually got unleaded, while those who wanted unleaded got 4-star. Many car engines could have been damaged by the mistake, which Safeway is blaming on a construction mistake at the site. And that's the BBC News at coming up to 3 minutes past 1. Next at 2.
All over the country, always here with you. Radio 2, Steve Madden.
And as long as I live, I shall never work out quite why that band were as unsuccessful as they were. There was Badfinger, and that was Day After Day from 1972. And Badfinger made a stack of mighty fine records, and they had the backing of the Beatles, and they were on the Beatles Apple label and stuff, and it still didn't quite work out, to say the very least of it. It's Cuddly Old Wireless 2 here, broadcasting 24 hours a day on wonderful wraparound stereo. The old Steve-O taking you through till 3 with as much stuff and nonsense as can be shoehorned in, plus... did I say mighty fine music? We seem to have a fair amount of it this morning. I think we've got a job lot. That's Gypsy, and they are Fleetwood Mac in the comparatively early days of Fleetwood Mac, I think. Because Fleetwood Mac went on to marry each other quite a lot, and it all got rather confusing. I think they've married each other several times over now. It's got even more confusing. There's been a few divorces and stuff, but you know how it is. You know how it is in bands. Weird all this. It makes our lives seem a bit sheltered, doesn't it? Probably that's not a bad thing either. There's the Marvelettes. Couldn't run to a full Marvel. Huh? Savage BBC cuts, you know how it is. Well, we're tightening our belts, and you're my remedy. 14 minutes past 1 it is, and it's Cuddly Old Wireless 2 here, just having a look at the newspapers, making sure we don't miss out on any of the big stories as they break. So it could be sometime between now and 3 we might reveal what's behind jail threat to Grandad's game of cat and house. That's cat and house. Oh no. Michael Fish didn't say anything about this. He said it was bright with sunny periods. Best of the sunshine in the east. Oh no, my umbrella's blown inside out now. It's always in a very public place. That's splendid. I don't like cover versions normally. I'm normally very averse. I normally go, But that's terrific. That's Aha's version of Crying in the Rain. Just having a look at October the 20th in years past, for it is October the 20th today, and Steve's hopelessly unreliable guide to October the 20th. We're offered Rambo, the poet Arthur Rimbaud, born in 1854, so no worries there about the card shops being shut. Wanda Jackson, born in 1937. Who else have we got? We've got the Rolling Stones. Of course, there's always a Rolling Stones anniversary. Today it's their first show in Paris, this day in 1964 at the Paris Olympia. Just 150 arrests and £1,400 worth of damage. Quiet night, really. And Earl Bostic turns up. Among the many greats in his various lineups was John Coltrane. Sadly, Earl Bostic died this day in 1965, 30 years ago. Just in case you're thinking, who on earth is Earl Bostic when he's at home? Band leader and inventor, of course, of superglue.
Now, as part of Radio 2's World of Faith Week, the Reverend Dr. Colin Morris continues his A to Z of deities.
A is for Anansi, the trickster god of the Ashanti tribe. He needed a favour of the sky god, who demanded as a price a python, a hornet, and a nature spirit. He tricked a python out of its hole by apparently arguing loudly. When the python emerged, Anansi told him he and his wife disagreed about whether the branch he was carrying was longer or shorter than a snake. The python obligingly stretched alongside the branch, and Anansi tied a rope tightly round it. Then he sprinkled water over a swarm of hornets, invited them to shelter from the rain in his nice dry gourd, and then he plugged its neck with clay, and that was that. Then he smeared a wooden doll with resin and left it alongside a bowl of food. A nature spirit came along and asked for some food. When the doll made no reply, the spirit got angry, grabbed the doll, and was trapped in the sticky resin. Anansi took his trophies along to find the sky god had raised the stakes and wanted an extra gift, Anansi's mother-in-law. No problem, said Anansi cheerfully.
Oh, yes. That's going rather suddenly. There's B.J. Thomas. And whatever happened to old-fashioned love? I just waded my way through the post here, and I've come across this from Diana Smethurst in Wirral. She says, I know you might quite like this. It's a cutting from, I don't know, I can't even tell you which paper this is from, but it's about a burglar. He's called Neil Englishby. Well, I suppose he's not so much a burglar as a robber. Age 25, he was jailed at Winchester Crown Court last week. He produced a gun at a sub-post office in Poole in Dorset in June. Don't try this at home, by the way. But fled the scene when the postmaster ducked below the counter and set off the alarm. The thief's escape was hindered somewhat when his baggy trousers fell down and tripped him up, not once but twice, to the amusement of nearby builders. Just his luck, really. I mean, there's a gang of builders there, waiting to wolf whistle somebody, and it had to be him. Crazed with fear, the robber then ran straight into the path of a van, and was knocked over. He got up, he tried to make his getaway over a wire fence, which collapsed on him, and Inglesby finally staggered to a nearby monastery, like you do, where police apprehended him as he lay on the ground exhausted. He got 5 years. Doesn't mention it here, but I would have thought he got a round of applause as well. That was the answer to another of the competitions. Most things at one stage or another have been an answer to one of my competitions. It just shows I've been on the earth forever. That's Olivia Newton-John and Take Me Home Country Roads. Just having a riffling through the post here. There's great stacks of stuff, and it's good news. I'm just having a quick look. It does help when we're sorting away this. You see, if you mark the envelope at the top left-hand corner, you see, so that we know, roughly speaking, what's inside. And somebody's marked their envelope at the top left-hand corner here. It says, quick, everyone put on their magic underpants. Bit more drama, perhaps, but apart from that, it's fine. There's Paul Anker, and You Are My Destiny. Can you imagine on take 238 of that? Yeah, we're going again, Paul. Could you just a bit more drama, perhaps? A bit more sense of occasion. It's time to pause for thought now, and John Morgan has written a poem for World of Faith Week.
Some people tell me they found the answer to the troubles of the world. It's all down to religion, they say. Look at every war and argument. It's always over religion. It's hard to argue back. But have they really found an answer? What's the next step? Ban all religions? You'd have even more trouble then. Yes, many groups have found their particular religion a convenient banner to fight under. But that's only because religion has been the one thing that they could turn to in times of oppression. True religion lifts your eyes beyond your local world. You may find wonder in creation and be inclined to worship a tree as a local god. But if that reverence continues, you'll be led to wonder, and then you'll want to look beyond, to that which brought these things into being. In the Wisdom of Solomon, a book used by Jews and Christians, the writer understands why people worship the wonders of creation, like fire, wind, hurricanes, the stars, the roaring ocean, the sun and the moon. But he goes on to say that you've got to look beyond them in order to find their maker. World of Faith Week is an opportunity to recognise how world religions look for the maker of all things. Tonight's poem starts to worship the wonders of the world, then tries to move beyond the gods we know. Fire, fire, to touch you is pain, the heart of you is all devouring, the heat of you is all empowering, the mark of you scratched on the land, signed in charcoal, your hand. But fire is opposed, defeated by rain. Wind, wind, born in the sea, the force of you will bend the leaf, pull at the branches like a thief. You're never seen, only heard, fly farther than migrating birds, then disappear swallowed by sea. Hurricane God, your vicious joke, you juggle power like a despot, move rocks and rivers without respite. People run and hide from your rage, come like a sign of the final age. But you can't make the final stroke. Sphere of stars, you swallow me. I find no means to comprehend distance's vastness. I can't pretend to measure one speck of a galaxy. I'm lost in your infinity. You only almost reach eternity. The sun, the moon, the stars, the wind, the force of fire and water moving on the earth, the elements cannot conspire to be divine, to take up power. They point to him who gave them birth.
It's John Morgan and his poem for World of Faith Week, Beyond the Gods We Know. And John will be back at the same time next week.
Between 88 and 91 FM, this is Radio 2.
Thank you very much indeed to Raymond Jones of Wrexham and Clwyd, who wrote and said, amongst other things, wouldn't mind hearing Nancy Griffith doing Speed of the Sound of Loneliness. Love that. Could you... well, actually, I haven't got it in the big black box this one. I've got something even better, really, because Speed of the Sound of Loneliness, one of the great songs of John Prine. And I just happen to have with me John Prine.